Yeah, it's that time again. Yeah, Levite Returns video. Yeah. It's gonna turn the volume up, right? Yeah, I better do that. Just thought of that. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I don't know if there's, well, this is the practical reality, right? Is that we're, pragmatically, we have to go through this process. And, somebody posted a comment on the economics video to the Modern Mystic and then started talking all this crap about choice again, and it's a deterministic universe and there's no such thing as choice, and so we're not allowed to use the word choice. As I said, society has a choice. We can be civilized or we can be assholes. And, we've chosen assholery to live in a shysterism. And clearly there was no choice. I mean, it's all determined. This sentence I'm speaking, this whole plea for minds to change, is preordained edifications coming from my mechanism. The logic says this is the thing to advocate, this is the thing to say, because this is the truth and this is what will be a better end. And the idea is that I'm supposed to say something or do it in some way that has the effect of persuasion, and that persuasion will be part of the deterministic end, and it leads to the victory, right, in the war, so to speak. But yeah, there's before you go into the war, there's already an outcome. You're going to win or you're going to lose, and it's already written. But obviously, while you're doing the war, you can't know that. The lack of access to the solution means that you can't just say, oh, okay, I won't bother arguing because there's no point. It's not going to win. The persuasion won't happen, the convincing, the process that will allow the right thing to happen, and instead the wrong thing will happen. And that's just the way it was. That's the way it's going to be. It will be broken, or it will be, the asteroid will hit the planet, there's no way to stop it, and blah 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 blah. But obviously this fact that we're saying, I don't want to get into all this stuff, this is the wrong subject, right? It's just annoying because you're just saying, well, that's so off comment, off subject. The video was about inheritance, not choice. But again, it's just the crap that you have to go through. So anyway, the point I'm making is, yeah, so this is the crap you have to go through. Is you're saying, well, is this really what I have to argue? Is this really the problem? Do these minds need to be convinced? I don't know. Is it really, I could argue, I suppose, that it's all sheepilism, right? I mean, all you got to do is get some celebrity endorsements and you don't have to argue anymore. The celebrities will tell the idiots what to think, and they'll think it because they like celebrities, and they'll believe whatever the celebrity says. It just seems to be true, right? I mean, there's all this talk about Hillary Clinton's, oh, she's already elected the next president. It's just so funny because, they haven't even started running the commercials just showing her lying all the time. You're just like, okay, so a liar's going to be the next president? I mean, we know she's a compulsive liar. So what are people actually saying when they say, oh yeah, Hillary? It's just kind of hilarious. I mean hilarious, not funny. I mean hilarious like, this planet doesn't make any fucking sense. And speaking of that, here we go.
Watching Inmendham's video response was a profoundly depressing affair.
Well, I just noticed the crucifix in the background, and that's kind of giving me a willy, to tell you the truth. It's wrinkling me up a little bit. To you, it's got my pieces retracting. So yeah, it does. The cross does have that effect on me.
Not because the Ethel prophet was declaring painful to accept truths, not because I was pwned or any such thing, no. Because somewhere, I mean, I've known for a long time
over the rainbow.
sharpest tool in the shed, so to
Blah,
speak.
blah, 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 blah. He's trying to get to a point, I guess. He's disappointed, that he thought he was going to convert me to silly mushery. Yeah, okay. So he's disappointed because he's like, oh, damn, I gave him my best crap, and he didn't get converted into a silly mushite. Yeah, well, I'm sorry you're down about that, but yeah, I could, if there was one of those things like this was a choice, like you think you're going to convince somebody with a rational brain to believe in your silly mushery, yeah, no chance. Yeah, I can tell you ahead of time, no chance. Doesn't matter how much frosting you pile on, no one's going to eat that turd.
But somewhere I thought that perhaps critical engagement with Inmendham was still possible, right? That's
Critical engagement. So this is his, and then in this video he has images of Hitler and references to Darth Vader and all that kind of stuff. And it's okay. I mean, it's fair cop. I like to compare people to Mengele lately. Mengele is my thing for the last couple of weeks, a couple of months maybe. So yeah, go for it, but don't be calling that critical anything. It's just crap. Your argument's crap.
somehow that this shit Sisyphus could break the cycle of his stupidity, right?
Shit Sisyphus. So yeah, so somehow I'm rolling shit up the hill constantly or something for no reason. No logical reason. It's not like I got on planet Earth and I said, gee, you all look like assholes and you smell kind of crappy. What am I doing here? Because frankly, you all suck. And the answer to the question was, oh, evolution. Not much of a process, actually.
Right. De-shackle himself and critically engage.
Critically engage with what? Again, you aren't presenting some kind of theory of reality. You're just basically saying, if I feel like it, I do it because that has value, because my being satisfied with myself somehow is more valuable than any consequential damage I might cause somebody else. I mean, sorry, your theory of non-accountability is just not going to wash. It's illogical drivel. It's fucking mush.
But here, anti-realism loses its force, and that big old dick pendulum that is reality comes swinging round full force and smacks me in the face.
Well, an interesting metaphor, and you probably did deserve it. So, way to go, big giant dick that ever hit him. Good. Good work.
God damn, Inmendham is stupid. So perhaps I'm the greater.
Oh, yeah, so I'm stupid because I don't put crosses on my wall and pretend that has something to do with reality. Oh, yeah, sorry, no sale.
For being deluded for more than a split second that Inmendham was ever anything but the addicted rabid ape having escaped from the zoo uploading videos.
The addicted rabbit ape. Yeah, I wonder what rabbit ape's doing. Yeah, he went to physics school. I wonder if he got through that. yeah, the physics subjects got a little interesting. I read some article, they were talking about oil droplets, blah, 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 mimics quantum behavior, blah, 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 but they're still full of shit. They still ain't got the obvious. It's about electrons, fuckers. Quantum mechanics is about electrons, not photons.
I mean, I think of two of his addictions, if you will, in his so-called ethical philosophy. Function and efficiency. Now,
yeah, so he's going to pervert the meaning of both these words, and certainly going to pervert my use of them. So I've used function in the sense that, always, almost exclusively in a sense that we need some redeeming function. We need to produce something to justify the waste, its suffering that is incidental to our existence. So that's the way I've used the word, and he's just going to lie. Yeah, now, this is the lying part. So this is his ethics. I will lie about what you believe. And that's ethical. Liars. Lying is ethical.
Aristotle spoke of function, right? He tried.
Final function. Yeah, Aristotle was a bit of a douchebag. So, I mean, what do you want me to say? You want me to have an argument with the 4,000-year-old philosophy? Well, I don't think I'll bother doing that.
To bridge the Izod gap, though of course not formalized as such in his day, with the notion of functionality. And see, it was embedded in a larger meta-context.
Yeah, and mine is embedded in a larger meta-context. My use of the word is that, yes, there has to be something gained to justify the pain. And the gain has to be something material, not something immaterial, in the sense that it has to be something realized in the world, not some notion in your head. So the fact that you have a notion in your head that says, I think it's good, well, that doesn't mean anything if your definition of good is shit.
Right. And he went to great lengths to expound upon the notion of virtue. But in Inmendham...
Yeah, well, I didn't. So again, I don't understand the point of the comparison. Has a point? No, it doesn't have a point. Name dropping, I guess, is all it is, right? That was the purpose of that. That was the function of that reference, was just to throw some name dropping in. Aristotle's on your side, and Hitler's on my side. Is that the game you're playing? Yeah, it's a stupid game. It sucks. It's a sucky game.
With him, you see, there really is no such meta-context. Function.
I think there's plenty of meta-context, whatever you want to talk about. Meta-context, you mean context, period, right? I don't know what meta means. Meta-context? I don't know what that means exactly.
Intrinsic to itself. Not a particularly helpful moral concept. The rapist penis might function quite well.
So again, see, now he's turned the word into function. Like I said, all functions of a human being are valuable, are useful, are good. Never said that, never even implied that, never even came close to anything like that. I said we needed to do something. We needed to fix something broken in the world. That would be a function. We needed to perform some service, necessary service. That was always my use of the word function. So this is just lying, right? I mean, there's no other... the right word for this is lying, right? I've made 4,000 videos. I've articulated this point. He's extracted this word function. He won't find a reference to this word function where I used it in any context defending any function that a human being has. So this is just lying. Liar, liar, liar.
As he's raping someone, we can see how readily this is problematic.
It's not problematic. So again, it's completely, you're the one with the problem. You're not performing a vital or important or useful function. Like Martians, you have no use to the universe, and you just wish not to accept that reality because you have an inflated and grotesquely bulbous ego.
His obsession with efficiency, he sounds like the capitalist he so despises.
Another non sequitur at best, right? I mean, you know, I've just made videos about how preposterously inefficient capitalism is. Okay, it's efficient only for 0.001% of the population, so that's hardly a definition of efficiency. When 99.99% of something is not being served, when its interests are not being served, that's not the definition of efficiency. So, wrong again, crazy fuck. Liar, crazy fuck.
Where efficiency is deemed the primary value, we recognize that efficiency is foreign to friendship.
Efficiency is foreign to friendship. Now, even that doesn't make any sense, right? Because we know that in 99% of cases of friendships, right, it's a give and take. You know, the friendship is made out of kind of a kind of a disgusting glue, right? Of you have to have some value to each other. And we all have been victims of it, and maybe we've all been guilty of it. But when somebody just isn't useful anymore, yeah, well, I don't take all their phone calls and I don't answer all their text messages because they're more burden than benefit. And we have all I think in the history of mankind, those kind of friendships have been revealed. And yes, there are friendships where the glue is good and the bond is strong and it stays strong because we've done something of almost infinite value for each other. If somebody saves your life, that's a strong glue. And the person's going to have to turn into one hell of a drunken asshole for you to push them away. And we have some friendships that are just that tight, just because somebody was there when you really, really needed them to be there. And now it's just not going to matter how big an asshole they turn into, you're going to cut them another break. And that's the nature of friendship. And you want to say it's something else, go ahead and say it's something else, but I'm saying in the real world, that's the nature of friendship.
To love, to exploration, to art.
To love and exploration and art, all these things, like I'm somehow against these things. No. I'm just recognizing their emotions. They're not rational, philosophical thoughts. We shouldn't run the country based on our bigoted love. I mean, all these words again are just so loaded. You want to talk about love as it's manifested in the human organism? It's kind of a disgusting story of trophy wives all over the place. Get a little too fat and I got to trade you in. Get a little too old, I got to trade you in. That's how much I love you. So, please. This goopy, mushy jibber jabber doesn't mean anything in the real world.
Even something as seemingly banal as conversation, one can rightfully infer that Inmendham is a man who has never known friendship.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, again, I don't have a bumper sticker on my car that says, "What would my penis say?" Yeah, I don't have a bumper sticker that says, "What does my stomach say?" I don't ask my emotional character for philosophical answers. If it's an important issue, should there be nuclear power, I don't decide based on whether the letter N is fun or unfun. Clear, I don't know, clear, nuclear, I don't know. It sounds, I don't know, clear is sometimes yucky. I don't like things being too clear and clean. So, yeah. So I'll judge it based on some idiotic emotional reaction that has nothing to do with reality. And I'm just advocating that, yeah, when we're going to do real business on planet Earth, we ought to be doing it with our brains, not our emotions.
He has never known how to love.
Comparing me to fucking Darth Vader. So he ended that with never known how to love, right? Now, if you take this Darth Vader story, right, it says he's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. But the joke is, right, that when they did the prequel, the story is that Darth Vader basically turned into Darth Vader because he loved his mommy. Okay, and his mommy got killed. And then his wife left him. And so it was love that drove Vader to the dark side. So, yeah, touche. I mean, you just got hoisted on your own petard there, buddy. Darth Vader is an example of an emotional basket case. Darth Vader didn't make logical decisions. Darth Vader made emotional decisions. So you just proved my case. You're just going to end up making a huge mess, and sucking the Emperor's dick if you follow your fucking emotional fucking basket casery. So you're, again, got it wrong. Darth Vader wasn't an example of a clinical, let me use a pejorative word, more pejorative, sterile, logically disciplined, logic slave. There, okay, slave to logic. There, put it in that terminology. Yeah, I'm advocating that we should be a slave to reason and logic. That when the push comes to the fucking shove, alright, that we use reason to answer questions, and logic to answer questions, and facts to defend what we do. That we're strictly and completely accountable when the push is coming to the shove, when the rubber meets the road. And you mushy, wishy-washy, silly people want to end up in the Vader trap and go with your emotions. Dun, 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 dun,
But
dun.
moreover, like with the concept of function, efficiency simpliciter is not a particularly helpful moral concept.
Well, it is when the question is 6 million Jews or a cupcake. Let's see, 6 million Jews in a concentration camp or a cupcake. Is that a fair price? Oh no, that's an outrageously silly price for a cupcake. So yeah, let's not do that. Yeah, no, it's really easy. Efficiency is easy. Efficiency is not shitting in your fucking drinking water, retard.
The Germans in World War II had a thing for efficiency, right?
Right, so it was really efficient to have a plan of building retirement homes for the Jews and then transporting them all the way over there and then going through all this bullshit and the whole war and the blah 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 and then executing them. Well, then neglecting them to death. That was the efficient way to deal with the problem. I mean, please. And again, what would it have to do with anything? If you know, by your philosophy, by your relativistic nonsense, if the only difference between right and wrong in this question of the Nazis is if they would have won the war, then it would have been the right thing to do. So again, it doesn't make any sense. It's either wrong for a real reason, not because of some perceptual reason. So you're just saying whoever wins gets to say what right and wrong is. That's pretty fucking lame. I'm saying it's wrong to kill 6 million Jews because you're pissed off at a few Jews that ripped you off. Yeah, I'm saying it's wrong to judge all Jews based on the behavior of a few Jews. Yeah, I'm saying that's wrong, inefficient, impractical as a solution.
How could they most efficiently slaughter the most Jews? The Bolsheviks, they had a thing for...
Well, again, it wasn't very efficient, so I'm sorry. I can think of I have actually made videos explaining I can think of better ways to do it. So let's not say Nazis were very efficient, because they weren't very efficient.
Efficiency, too. We can see how readily problematic the concept is.
Well, yeah, because you dropped a couple of names again. Hitler and, the Holocaust and the Bolsheviks. Yeah, so go ahead. Pick on the commies and the Nazis. No, yeah. yeah, kind of soft targets, right? Oh, you're so brave.
Muss erneut Appellgerichte werden. Es muss weitergekämpft werden. Es geht nicht.
More efficiency, you cunts. That's what it says there. More efficiency, you cunts. So again, look, if you really add it up, right? The Nazis, the bad news about the Nazis was the bigotry thing, right? They were bigots. And if they didn't have the bigotry thing, then what? You're going to hate Volkswagens? You're going to hate the idea of the efficiency of creating civilization that's built on some kind of culture and that tries to discourage the very kinds of diversity and tribalism that degrades your society. I mean, I can't say I think all of that is wrong, because I don't think it's wrong. I think migrating to a commonality, melting into the pot, makes some fucking sense. This idea of maintaining what you are in the pot and not mixing into the pot, I think just makes a bunch of chunky vomit.
Inmendham claims that, to quote, value is a realm that exists without material structure.
Wow. Yeah. And that's a hard one for people to figure out. You can't see it with your eyes. You have to understand it with your mind. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Value is not material. It's real, but it's invisible. Okay? It's not made out of matter. It's made out of relationship. And it can only be understood as conceptual relationship by understanding a word like good and bad, good and evil. I mean, evil is kind of a silly word, but good and bad are concepts, and we can understand them as concepts and put things in categories suitable based on the conception that one thing is a preferable thing and the other thing is a non-preferable. That kind of thing. Comfort, discomfort. And we can understand, I can certainly understand it, and I understand it with a kind of absolution. I mean, a kind of absolute knowledge. I am, you know, what, did you talk to Jesus, and is that why you have this on the wall? Or did you talk to God? Do you know He exists? Do you know Jesus exists? You know He hung on a cross? I'm telling you, I know feelings. I've had them. And I know that the category of good feeling and bad feeling is incredibly sensible. But it's not materially written. Most things don't have it written on them. You won't see the word good on the good stuff, and you won't see the word bad on the bad stuff. It's not materially revealed. It's understood intellectually.
I suppose all of his talk of monism was nothing but a joke. We see
Monism. I don't know what that is. All this talk of monism.
how readily he castigates his own ontology when it has undesirable implications. Here Inmendham mirrors the theist, horrified at a godless world, letting ill consequence serve as belief-forming mechanism.
Ill consequence serve as belief. Yeah, I don't... sorry, little help. I don't know what the fuck he's saying. You know what he's saying? Yes, I'm saying value is not material. I'm saying, though, that it is as real as the concept of good and bad. It's as real as our understanding of repulsion and attraction in nature. It's as real as our understanding of any other kind of mechanical mechanism in the universe that we can understand as like gravity. Yeah, it's as real in its actuality. It's just not material.
Outwardly moved, to be sure, but being the decent pessimist that I am, I won't break the whip out over it.
Yeah, I don't know. He thinks he has some sort of something, and yet he's not going to capitalize on the something, which I don't know what it is. So, whatever. So yeah, he's applauding himself for not fighting the battle he would have won. Yeah, well, whatever.
Inmendham never explains how value obtains.
How value obtains. Yes, he does explain. He explains it through sentient experience. I am a sentient organism. I have sensations. Those sensations inform me that my matter is different than this battery. That the welfare of the brain is different than other matter. It's doing something very different, and that difference is all the difference. It's the only thing that can make value. It's a brain, a sensate, qualitatively feeling brain. Qualitatively in the sense of having a good feeling or a bad feeling. Only these devices can create value in the universe. There. It's not enough of an explanation? I'm sorry. I don't know how to make the explanation any more. Water is wettish.
Being immaterial, does value exist outside of spatial temporality?
Spatial temporality? It doesn't exist outside the existence of sentience. So if we are the only sentience in the universe, which I believe we are, yeah, once we don't exist, it doesn't exist. There's no value without a sentient's welfare at stake. So unless a sentient welfare's unless the welfare of a sentient is at stake, there is no value equation, and there is no value product, and there is no necessity for us to worry about persuasion or migration to logic or intelligence. Intelligence has no purpose or function because there is nothing meaningfully at stake without sentience. I mean, if we're the problem in need of a solution. The welfare of sentient beings can be the only problem in need of solution. Nothing can be called a problem if there isn't a sentient in danger of having a bad feeling.
Is an Inmendham a Platonist? Does value supervene upon states of affairs or concrete objects? And once again,
it's pretty simple. It's created value by sentient existers having experience. And you just add up the experiences. They just compile over time as experiences. And it is the net experience, the net product of those experiences, that will define or describe a kind of efficiency. What you paid and what you got for the payment. And the context of that is other premise truths, arguments, statements, theories of reality that describe it sort of as a zero-sum game, that the catch to your good and evil is that good is the absence of evil, that there is no true good, there's just no evil.
nowhere in Inmendham's video did he give, outside of his own incredulity, epistemological impetus for why we should think that value exists.
Well, again, I have done that. I've sort of explained the evolution of the brain and psychology, and that it's a motivating mechanism. And yeah, you have to create the carrot and the whip scenario. And the only catch would be is that it's really just the whip scenario and then the removal of the whip. But it doesn't really matter. The carrot and the whip, if we go back to that, are concepts that I think every person can understand. Conditions that are attractive versus conditions that are repulsive. And that is the source material from which I claim the existence of this value energy, this value matter, this value gravity. That the gravity of value is created, is gravity value equals sentient despair times some constant.
At least mine independently. After completely misunderstanding the point of Darwin and defeater conditions, to briefly elucidate, I never claimed that propositions must have empirical backing to be philosophically viable. He states that his theory of value can proceed a la
well, whatever, his claim was that I have to provide some escape hatch or some proof, some opportunity for you to prove me wrong. And no, my only obligation is to say this theory fits the model, fits the circumstance. And you have to come up with a counter theory saying where it's wrong. Now, you won't do that to the individual pieces in much detail, but you certainly haven't done it to the whole of the volume of the evidence. So again, the levels of the conversation have to include more than just the word function and efficiency. The whole conversation has to include a conversation about consent, responsibility, and accountability. These are all words highly relevant to any ethical conversation. Conversation about ethics.
Logical proofs and reasoned arguments. It should be noted that logic does not impose, if you will, truth upon the world.
Yeah, no one's saying it does, in the sense that the logic is only as good as the garbage went in, right? So it's garbage in, garbage out, you could argue. So certainly the premise statements are very, very important. So if I say biology is consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction, if I say that our psychology is just a motivating mechanism, not an educational, not a source of knowledge, and that it is the scheming mind, the mind that was developed for the purpose of satisfying the motivational mechanism, that has the capacity to do the logic, that you're not going to get the truth from the motivator. You're going to get the truth from distorting and perverting the scheming tool into a thinking tool.
As to quote Norman Swartz, this confuses the semantic truth-making order. Propositions are true because of world states of affairs. If Inmendham thinks...
Oh, well, whatever. Things are declared past just being theoretical when they have enough evidence. And I'm saying clearly that we have enough evidence to know that our entire existence is just a biological manifestation of a parasitic engine, which is evolution. That's our primary function, is to just find some blood to suck, that we're vampires, that we're all organisms are but monstrosities created to suck some piece of the biosphere dry. That's the basic function of the beast, is in some way to capitalize, to consume weakness, threat, vulnerability, to take it out of its environment, to ensure its survival for the sake of its survival. The victory is not any purposeful victory. It is merely a contrived contest, like swimming laps back and forth in a swimming pool. It's a silly, pointless contest just to create some opportunity for someone to say, stand up and say, I win. And that's all that's going on here.
That value can be said to exist via logical deduction. He's living in a fantasy land.
Well, whatever. I don't think there's anything fantasy about my own personal experience with consciousness. So again, if you wish to theorize that I'm not having a typical conscious experience, and that I'm not given insight by being sentient, go ahead and make the charge, but I think it's a baseless nonsense. It's just an evidence of your desperation. If you wish to attack my knowledge gained from being sentient, that's one place you can't go.
Now, Inmendham could discuss inference to the best explanation, and why his theory of value exemplifies this, or perhaps phenomenological conservatism as an avenue in which to establish moral realism.
Well, whatever. I don't know what that is either. I've made plenty of arguments about just the basic, this is not complicated. Okay, you want to make it complicated because you have this little story on your wall, this fantasy narrative that you think's part of humanity. You think we're here for a reason. Well, no, we're here because of a biological mechanism, and just like a crocodile or a tyrannosaurus, we have certain tools. One of the tools was a scheming mind. The scheming mind became more developed through language, and now we can do something more interesting with our brains. And instead of doing something honestly interesting with your brain, you're just doing something dishonestly uninteresting and dangerous and menacing. You're rejecting facts and truth and clinging to fables and fantasies to placate and massage your motivating mechanism.
But of course, he never does this. And what's doubly ironic is that he laughingly states in his video that he doesn't believe in the existence of moral intuitions, thereby throwing one of the best avenues in which to establish moral realism completely out the window. So,
why would I want an avenue of something called realism to be dependent on conditioned and biologically controlled visceral emotional responses? That doesn't seem to me to have any logical credibility or any connection whatsoever to intelligence. Conditioning and natural disposition, these are two things you will not find intelligence in. You will find bigotry in them, you will find prejudice, you will find all kinds of perversions of perspective and importance. That's the very nature of our nature, is to have those bigotries and perversions and distortions. Yeah, that's exactly my argument, idiot. Yeah, why would I see any vehicle I could put anything good in called emotionalism? Emotionalism is shit.
keep shooting yourself in the foot, Inmendham. Call me a sadist. I don't care. I'm enjoying the show.
Well, there we go. Okay, so you've basically acknowledged you fit the description of a sadist then. Okay, yeah, you're enjoying it. Okay, there we go. So like the spectators in the Colosseum, you suck.
In my last...
I mean, you have no moral character. You have no ethical character. You have no sophisticated character. You have no intelligent character.
This video, I use the word important, and Inmendham embarrassingly tries to use this as a kind of gotcha moment. He says that...
well, there was about 743 gotcha moments in the video. But yeah, I just think quite obviously I could use a million examples of how all of this bullshit you're speaking is turned on its head. All I have to do is threaten the life of your wife or your child or some other thing that's important to you, and somehow all of a sudden these values are going to be quite obvious to you, and your nihilism isn't going to mean anything.
That I can say that some things are important, but other people can't say things have value, right? And you see, he's too dumb to realize that importance within the context of epistemology.
Oh, well, whatever. So you get to define the context. So again, so when somebody else says the context is the idea that this is a evolution, we're parasitic organisms, we don't have magic powers. Even if they were to limit the context to we don't have magical powers and nothing deliberately created us and we don't exist as any function of the universe, if that was the context, you'd disqualify those contexts. You'd say you're not allowed to do that for the purpose of the argument. And so yet you can do it for the purpose of your argument. So again, it's just your hypocrisy, not mine. You're not making a counter-argument is the bottom line. Okay, I really don't care. Use the word important all you want. Use the word value all you want. But again, say it in a context where you're at least honest about what you're defending as your origin of value, which is nothing. You have no origin for it except a notion in your fucking head. And I'm saying a notion in your head isn't nearly good enough, especially when you're risking somebody else's welfare. So you got to do better than that.
So even here, there's an avenue of exploration by which to attempt to establish moral realism. Philosophers have called this the partners of innocence strategy, which is to say...
Yeah, well, whatever. Physicists say all kinds of silly shit, too. I mean, I really don't care, right? You want to tell me that I have to have a conversation about reality in the context of your favorite moral philosophers when I don't even accept the word moral as meaning anything. So, I mean, what's the fucking point? It's a silly, stupid word to use in describing reality.
If epistemological realism is correct, then we can cautiously and safely adopt, if you will, moral realism into a kind of normative web. Title of the book.
Well, whatever. I don't see how you can have moral realism without an obligation, as I have fulfilled the obligation, of having some sort of theory where your morality comes from. And to say it comes from some innate biological process, sorry, not nearly good enough.
But since Inmendham doesn't read, so as relative to the epistemological realm, it cannot universalize the contention that something must have explanatory power in order to be ontologically viable. Right? The reason is there must be things, if you will, for lack of a...
Oh, again, who cares, right? This whole philosophy thing is really just describe reality. So, I think it's obviously if you say reality is a unicorn told me, well, then we just can't be bothered, right? I can't argue what a unicorn said to you, or you say the unicorn said to you. Or, it's like the spook problem. If you see some phenomenon, it gives you evidence, personal evidence. Well, there's no point. I'm not going to argue your personal evidence. I have a right to say you're psychotic. I don't have any obligation to give it any credibility whatsoever. It's a story in your fucking head. And until you can make the story communicable to me, until you can give me some reason why I should believe the notion in your head means something, then it doesn't mean anything. You have to explain it.
Better word. Which are the possibility condition of explanatory power itself.
Evidence. And like I say, all the evidence points to the biological function creating monstrosities that go into the world to replicate a molecule, and that there is no innate efficiency in that process. There's no obligation to any kind of consideration for welfares or how many children you murder. Nature murders children all the time, billions and zillions of them. It will sacrifice to create its one survivor. It will lay the battlefield red in blood, okay, for one soldier, to save one fucking soldier. That's its efficiency notion. That's its principle, which is no principle. And you're saying that's your authority for value and morality. And I'm saying, quite obviously, that's a rock. That's saying the rock tells me what's right and wrong. Sorry. That's really retarded.
Some philosophers reference this as metanormativity. Now, this would seem more
metanormativity. Some philosophers? You mean talk out of their assers? I mean, I don't read books because most of them are toilet paper disguised as a book. So, yeah, I don't bother reading it. It's toilet paper.
Viable in the epistemological realm, not so much in the moral. In my last video, I referenced evolutionary arguments for moral anti-realism. And once it...
Moral anti-realism. I mean, can you make anything out of that? I reference it to demonstrate moral anti-realism.
identifying myself as a moral realist, it's becoming increasingly difficult.
Right, so he doesn't believe in value, okay? He just thinks you just make it up. So if you want to believe Jews are devils and have horns and are zombies and we should just dig holes and rebury them, you're entitled. Because, yeah, it's okay. Fair cop. Just make up the truth.
Just to say, my goal here is not to proffer moral nihilism, right?
I think it is, but doesn't really matter, right? Because you're not proffering anything. You're just making some... You're just throwing mud. That's it. You're just throwing crap in my direction that really... You premise your arguments with false premises, right? Okay, so you've abused the word function and distorted the word efficiency. And then you tell me I don't have a right to claim I have knowledge of good and bad through personal experience. And you're telling me my personal experience is a lie or it doesn't exist, that having sensations doesn't give me any capacity to know that sensations are important. I'm saying you're crazy. You're fucking insane.
To be honest, I just enjoy Inmendham, making him look stupid. But so just...
You enjoy Inmendham making him look stupid.
To briefly share, this is John Derbyshire. To give a kind of layman's account,
right, name dropping
of
again.
Why this is becoming increasingly problematic. So he's talking of the cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman, and I'll provide a link.
Oh dear.
And this is what he says. Hoffman described his work on evolutionary game theory. Using a powerful computer, he has modeled the evolution across thousands of generations of imaginary species with such and such characteristics in various environments. He wanted to compare evolutionary fitness, how well an organism is adapted to its environment, with truth, how accurately the organism perceives its environment.
And by perceives, he doesn't mean how accurately the organism sees. He means perceives in what kind of attachments does the organism acquire. What kind of love interests, or whether the male lion goes into the cubbery and kills all the other lion's cubs. Those kinds of expressions of perception. So you understand, this is such a distortion, right? So he's basically just talking about how the emotional character of organisms loses all connection to what we would consider to be sensible value recognition, because they are driven by game theory-esque notions of advantage. And this is why male lions kill the cubs. It's not because they hate cubs, it's not because it is an obvious hypocrisy in loving your cubs and killing somebody else's cubs. Clearly the lion doesn't have the capacity to understand that hypocrisy, but clearly he's been motivated by a mechanism that's to his genetic code's advantage to have the impulse, to have the motivation to do that. So again, he's just making my argument for me by referencing this element of the imbecility of evolution, the fact that our emotional character doesn't have any character, that it is in fact completely corrupted by distortions, by a bigotry, by an affection for our own child, and a capacity to neglect somebody else's child, a capacity to completely ignore somebody else's child, not recognizing that all the qualities of childness are in the child, not in your perception of it. And so that's what he means by not being realistic in perception, is that we perceive through our bigotry. That's what we end up having, an emotional character that is driven by bigotries. And so he's making again, touche. I win again. You've blown yourself up with your own stupid argument. You're making my argument for me, that there is no moral intuition, that the intuition is a bigoted, ignorant source of distortion, not knowledge.
In his words, does natural selection favor veridical perception? The answer from his models is no. To quote, truth goes extinct every time, except when turned into fitness. So less generally, we can ask if
so again, the argument is that, yes, the obvious, what's the right word to use, what can be logically understood to be the relationship of things is not what we viscerally end up feeling as creations through nature. So even when they create synthetic beasts in a synthetic model, they tend to do things that have to do with genetic advantage and not reasoned understanding of their context in a whole game. So anything with not their genetic code no longer exists as a sentient or a feeling thing. It is reduced to nothing. It's a rock. It's something in the environment to be used, not to something to be concerned about. And that's one of the cognitive distortions, the perceptual distortions created by evolution as a creator of motivation.
Evolution pushes, if you will, towards lining up our evaluative attitudes with attitude-independent normative truth, or whether our
even the fact that he would bring this crap up, this evolution crap, in a philosophical conversation as if our philosophy has something to do with this mush, which it shouldn't, clearly. Philosophy is not evolving by natural selection. Philosophy isn't injected into another being through some sort of genetic imposition. Philosophy has to be migrated through persuasion, through argumentation. It's a merit system of sorts. Clearly, in the pop culture, the downfall is that people will rub their emotions on the philosophy and say, how does this philosophy make me feel, rather than doing a cognitive, thoughtful, rational evaluation and saying, how do I think about this philosophy? And that's the breaking of philosophy. You've allowed the animal to turn it into something else. I metaphor this to an ape using a brain as a hammer. It's not getting the tool right.
evaluative attitudes constitute the whole of moral theorizing. Now, the latter option has epistemological value, it seems to me, on account of greater epistemological value relative to the former, overwhelmingly on account of parsimony. And perhaps in Inmendham you can Google image search the word. So,
I'm not going to bother. I mean, it's your obligation to have a rational conversation with other people. And again, you want to play your pretentious game that I'll just use a bunch of words that aren't commonly used to try to make me sound intelligent, and that's all you're doing. And clearly, that's your shtick. And I'm not going to play. So, fuck you.
Conclusion, Inmendham is the Forrest Gump of anti-natalism.
Yeah, and what, I could just make any kind of elitist reference to somebody who's all talk and no substance, who's all big words with nothing behind them. You're all pretense, you're all huff, no puff.
Except for he's less charming than our dear fictional friend. I can confidently say that Inmendham is the best thing that's ever happened to pronatalism and when the universe...
Oh, yeah, whatever. You think that's true. I don't think you do, but whatever. Sound good, I guess, as an argument. As like, okay, well, even though I can't clean that mess up, that mess will make a wonderful foundation for a building someday. Okay, make up another fable to live by. So, yeah, another one of your little comforting fables. A little comforting fable.
Mercifully ends that cold, decrepit heart of his, though he has, in the video many times, verbalized how readily he would celebrate the death of others. I myself will be sad.
Yeah, well, whatever. I'm sad because you lose the great swamp upon which you can build your future crystal city of baby making. Yeah, whatever your silly dreams are. None of this will matter in the end, of course. It's all going to be particularized by the universe. There will be not a single little fossil left, not a single informational remnant will be left. Yeah, but this is how you played the game. You're saying that this was an honest, logically coherent. That you think I'm being unfair cop, not to look at this argument and say, gee, this was incredibly flawed. This has no what counter argument again to my theory that we are parasites evolved to be feeding machines, that you can see the basic flatworm function. We're flatworms that can sing and dance, and that's not good enough. That's not enough of a function to justify the fact that you're dancing on horrific, wasted suffering. That it is in fact like nature. It will kill a battlefield of soldiers to create one jackass that can swim, 3 miles in 2 minutes. I mean, what have you done to the metaphor of gladiator war? And why is gladiator war something we should all sit in the stands and say, oh, isn't this fun to watch? Whatever. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. So you're surprised I'm not convinced by your compelling. Yeah. Jesus says so. Jesus was a nihilist. Well, he was a nihilist, right? The poor will be with you always. Yeah, it's a pretty big fail statement. So anyway. So I think we've gone on a good hour anyway, right? Did I get to an hour? Yes, I did. Yeah, so. Sorry, I think, there's important stuff in here, so at least it's a reference point. It's a place for me to clarify positions and make sure people understand that the words these people put in my mouth are not my words, and that is necessary, and I think there's some value in trying to explain not only why they have a motive to pervert my position, but why they're not making a counter argument to my position, because they don't have one. Yeah, they don't. Their alternative truth is mush. Their alternative theory of truth is mush. Thank you very much.